Heading straight into Caribbean East Africa, the government of Kenya seeks 70 billion Kenyan shillings in reopened infrastructure bonds. Now, the Central Bank of Kenya is seeking 70 billion from two reopened infrastructure bonds to finance the projects. That is in the current fiscal year. Now, the reopened 14-year paper was actually first issued in 2022 and has a remaining time to maturity of about 11.8 years and 13.9% coupon rate, while the 17-year paper, that is with a 14.3% coupon rate, has a 15.1 years, that is to maturity. Now, under the Central Bank Kenya's amortized redemption structure, the Apex Bank will actually pay back the bonds to investors in parts over the life of bond instead, that is of all at once. Now, 50% of the outstanding amount will actually be remitted on 4th November 2030, and other half 6 years later, that is for a 14-year paper. Now, the 17-year paper will actually have 50% of the encumbered outstanding principal amount paid, that is on the 28th of February 2033, and final redemption on 20th February 2040. Now, the two bonds are expected to attract the investors owing to their tax-free nature. Now, this comes after the proposal about the National Treasury to introduce what we call a 5% withholding tax on interest, that is from infrastructure bonds, which was rejected in Parliament. Now, according to what the Central Bank of Kenya noted, was that the bonds will be tax-free, as the case for infrastructure bonds as provided for the under the Income Tax Act, that is CBK noted in a prospectus. Now, in 2024 infrastructure bond, the government raised 288.6 billion. That is against the 70 billion on that is on offer. That is 412.4% of subscription. Now, there is being significant foreign interest in the infrastructure bond, and we anticipate that this will bring in foreign exchange from these purchases, said the central bank governor, that is Dr. Kamau Thagi, shortly after the bonds February 2024 issuance. Now, still, according to the prospectus by the CBK, bidding for the two papers runs until the 12th of February, that is 2025. You know, so let's see what will this really mean to the economic impact, to the economic growth and development of Kenya. All right, now in other stories, we took a look at China, which has actually decided to ban livestock product imports coming in from Tanzania, Somalia on disease fears. You know, the countries that China has put it out to ban the livestock products, that is Tanzania, Somalia, that is due to the disease fears. Now, China has prohibited imports of sheep, goat, poultry, even toad ungulates, that is from African, Asian, and European countries, that is due to outbreaks of livestock diseases such as the sheep pox, the mentioned the goat pox, and the foot and mouth disease. Now, the ban also includes processed and unprocessed products that comes from the World Organization for Animal Health released information of disease outbreaks that is in various countries, according to a series of announcements by China's General Administration Customs dated January 2021. Now, the ban by the world's largest meat importer affects Ghana, Somalia, Qatar, there is Congo, Nigeria, Tanzania, Egypt, East Timor, and Eritrea. Now, China also said that it has stopped imports of sheep, goat, and related products from occupied Palestinian territories, as well as Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh. This is all due to sheep pox and goat pox outbreaks. You know, so China is very protective, and the country also actually blocked the imports of even the toad ungulates and related imports from Germany, following an outbreak of foot and mouth disease, it's said. That is according to China. And what does that mean to Africa's, agricultural output? The fact that our economies, this is what drives these economies. And now, the question is, what is the way forward here? Are we willing to invest in the medication, veterinary services that are up to the standard? Or it is okay to lose China as a market, because it can't be understandable in that perspective, if you to look at it that way, because of late, there has been seems to limited attention of China, also especially in Africa, and also on the Asian continent. The United Arab Emirates is really taking effect. So at some point, don't be surprised when all this is happening, when we know that China is one of the biggest market for some of these exports from these countries. So, well, there is a lot of trade wars that are happening. Just in my opinion, when you go to the back of the curtain, something is actually playing out that may not be, that might have a political sense if you look at it from an analytical perspective. All right, now in other stories, still in the Caribbean, East Africa, let's take a look at the EACC, which currently is probing 534 files from over 5,000 reports. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says that it has received and processed 5,171 reports during the financial year 2024-2023 out of 2,207 that fell within its mandate. Now, according to the Commission's annual report, 42% of the 2,207 reports recommended for investigation were related to bribery, while 13% involved the embezzlement and misappropriation of the public funds. Now, while additional 12% of the cases concerned unethical conduct, and 11% were actually related to fraudulent acquisition and disposal of public property. Now, speaking to the launch of the annual report, the EACC chairperson, that is David Ogina, described corruption as a significant threat to good governance in the country, that is in Kenya. Now, this is what he said, that today's launch provides a platform to reflect on the state of corruption in the country and grave harm it continues to do it to its dozens. And he says that we call upon the public to discharge their civic responsibilities and support anti-corruption initiatives that do not engage or encourage corruption. That is what he said. Now, Oginde emphasized the critical role of stakeholders when it comes to these, including professionals, religious organizations, talking about families, and when it comes to combating corruption. Now, he definitely pointed out the public officials that often use family members as conduits for corruption, a trend that undermines societal values. Now, families should refuse to be enlisted in corrupt deals and instead take up their roles in shaping morality in society. That is what he said. Now, he highlighted that the challenges that undermine the fight against corruption, that is including weak legal frameworks and lack of accountability among the public institutions, urging the government to curb the existing challenges. Now, challenges that impede effective anti-corruption innovations, he said they call upon the Parliament to support the Anti-Corruption Amendment Bill 2025 to address the gaps and the weaknesses in the existing laws. Now, of course, the Anti-Graft Agency's executive officer, that is Abdi Mohammed, echoed these sentiments, commending the media for their role in promoting transparency. Now, Mahmoud noted that the Commission was currently pursuing over 400 cases to recover assets worth approximately 49.95 billion, that is Kenyan shillings. However, he also acknowledged that some ministries, departments, and agencies failed to implement recommended corruption prevention measures, and of course, undermining accountability efforts. Now, he definitely urged a collective action from stakeholders, noting that some of the key milestones achieved, including the recovery of corruptly acquired assets that is worth 2.9 billion Ugandan shillings, and the filling of 49 new civic suits that is to recover an estimated 9.2 billion Kenyan shillings. So that is the report in regards to that. Then, of course, following the United States aid cut to African nations, not only Uganda is affected, but also Kenya has been affected. Now, the government is trying to explore alternative funding sources after the United States threat to pull out of the World Health Organization. Now, the Public Service Secretary, that is Amos Gatecha, has revealed that the government is actively exploring alternative funding sources to support people living with HIV and AIDS, considering the United States move to withdraw from the World Health Organization. Now, Gatecha expressed the concern that the move of by the United States, the largest financial contributor to the program, would actually have significant consequences on Kenya's efforts, that is to combat HIV and AIDS. He said that we hope America won't pull out of the World Health Program because there are biggest financiers, Gatecha stated, but should they pull out as a country, we have to get alternatives on funding, you know. Now, the announcement comes days after Donald Trump signed an executive order affirming the intent to withdraw from the World Health Organization Global Health Initiative. Of course, the move is expected to have far-reaching implications not only for the global health programs, but specifically for countries like Kenya, which heavily rely on the fund for HIV and AIDS prevention, treatment, and support. Now, the order marked the second time Donald Trump has actually pushed such a voice, has pushed for such a move following the 2020 withdrawal, which actually accused the World Health Organization of mishandling the COVID-19 pandemic and being overly China-centric. Now, earlier, the World Health Organization expressed the regret over the United States announcement to withdraw from the organization while signaling its openness to a constructive dialogue to be able to resolve the differences. Now, the United States has actually been a cornerstone of the World Health Organization's efforts. That is since 1948 when it became a founding member. Now, the organization noted that in the recent years, it has implemented the largest set of reforms in its history, improving accountability and efficiency at the same time. Well, that is it regarding Caribbean East Africa. Now let's switch and take a look at what's making headlines beyond the borders of East Africa. Now, President Donald Trump offers millions of federal workers 8 months' pay to resign. Now, President Donald Trump has offered what we call the buyout packages at almost all federal workers who do not want to return to the office, a major move designed to shrink the United States government. Now, in an email sent to the millions of employees on Tuesday, his administration told the workers that they had to decide by 6th February, whether they wanted to be a part of the deferred resignation program. Now, if they agreed to leave their jobs by the date, the message said they would actually receive 8 months of salary as a severance package. Now, of course, Donald Trump administration expects up to 10% of employees to accept the offer, or around 200,000 of more than 2 million workers of the federal government employees, according to the tabloids. Now, senior Trump officials told the United States media that the buyouts could actually save the government up to $100 billion. That's incredibly an amount of money. Now, workers are wishing to take the deal that is on Tuesday were asked to reply to the email that is with the word resign written into the subject line. Now, the offer includes both pay and benefits of the workers until 20th September. Now, certain employees did not receive the offer, including the postal workers, members of the military, immigration officials, and some national security workers, according to the email. Now, the government's HR agency on Tuesday evening also warned of the future downsizing that could impact those who actually choose to stay. Now, of course, they say that we cannot give you assurance regarding the certainty of your position or agency that should your position be eliminated, you will actually be treated with dignity, it reads. Now, the email follows Trump's earlier announcement that federal employees who had been working remotely since the COVID-19 pandemic would actually be required to return to the office 5 days a week. Now, speaking to some of the analysts, that is Stephen Miller, Stephen Miller, this is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, said that the government's 2 million workers were actually overwhelmingly left of center, adding that it was actually essential for Donald Trump to get control of the government. Now, Donald Trump repeatedly pledged to cut the size of the government and slash federal spending, while, of course, on the campaign trail. Now, he tasked Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, yes, Vivek Ramaswamy, with a leading and advisory body focused on cutting the regulations, spending, talking about headcounts within the federal government. But the email on Tuesday bears a resemblance to one sent on Twitter. And now, of course, ex-employees in late 2022, after Elon Musk bought the social media platform. Now, he definitely asked for an emailed response if they wanted to remain at the company. Now, of course, the mass buyout came after the end of the at times chaotic day in Washington following a memo Trump issued, which said that he would actually pause the federal grants, loans, and other assistance. Now, the district judge suspended the order, and which was actually initially said to effect, to go into effect. That was on Tuesday afternoon until next Monday. So let's wait and see what the developing story around there says. Now, finally, the General Motors stocks slumps on tariff fears, even as revenues exceed expectations. Now, Donald Trump's threats to tax key materials needed for building vehicles and on Canada and Mexico, which are integral to United States auto supply chains, have actually spooked investors. The General Motors earnings have exceeded the Wall Street's forecasts, but investors are still dumping the stock broadly on fears of tariffs that would actually make it hard for the car maker to hit its largest 2025 targets. Now, shares dropped more than 10% on Tuesday, putting it on track for the worst day since the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020. Now, the investors and the analysts say the General Motors outlook is actually clouded by the United States President Donald Trump's threats of tariffs and reduced support for electric vehicles. Donald Trump is one of these people that believe that climate change is actually a scam. And it explains why companies like General Motors have largely gotten stuck to manufacture gasoline vehicles. And in China right now, the trend is electric vehicles. And one of the biggest manufacturers of electric vehicles as we speak right now on a global scale is China. It was actually threatening Canada's EV industry at the same time. So take a look at it that way. So you find that cars like the Chevrolet Suburban and any other cars that are manufactured by the General Motors are performing poorly in China, because people switching away from these vehicles, and now the stocks are definitely declining heavily. And of course, and these are some of the predictions by the analysts when it comes to the response of Donald Trump's tariffs. How are other countries going to respond? Look at it that way. Now, the automaker, that is General Motors, projected a net income of $11.2 billion to about $12.5 billion for 2025. Now, that's ahead of the expectations of the $10.8 billion, and numerous analysts termed the outlook optimistic. Now, Barra, the GM CEO, the General Motors CEO, that is Mary Barra, told investors on a conference call on Tuesday that he believes Donald Trump wants to use the policy and regulations in ways that will strengthen and not harm the domestic manufacturers like the General Motors. Now, Trump has said that he wants to use the tariffs to push companies to move operations back to the United States, but such moves can take years. Some moves can actually take years. Now, in the meantime, General Motors has actually an extensive playbook pulled together in the event of tariffs imposed. Now, General Motors CFO, that is Paul Jacobson, told the reporters on Monday prior to Donald Trump's statement. Now, the company had already started to bring vehicles in its international inventory in Mexico and Canada to the United States. That is according to what Jacobson said. Now, every delivery that we make before a tariff is instituted, it's that much better rather than sitting on inventory. That is what he said. Now, he did say, however, that they would not be able to make some decisions until they understand that the tariff environment, what the tariff environment will look like. They can't make decisions not until they get to have a picture of what the tariff environment is likely to be for 2025. Now, there is things that we cannot do to balance the plans and so many more. Now, these are all the officials coming in from the General Motors coming up to explain for the low performance of the company, of the car makers' stocks. Interesting war here. Well, let's go for the break now. When I return, we shall get into our business updates and also the business tips and quotes for 2025. Stick around.